Hey, social workers, mental health professionals, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Social Workers Podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. This podcast or listening to the podcast, I can be reached on social media at Instagram at the Social Work Rants Podcast. That's all one word. At on Twitter at Social Work Rants. On Facebook, aka Meta, just type in the Social Work Rants Podcast. Hit the like button, and of course YouTube. Hit the red subscribe button. Tune in, tap in every week. Uh, there's just a lot going on in the world as usual, and this episode is I'm going to address these mass shootings that's happened recently here in the U.S. In Buffalo, New York, my home state, my original home state. Um, Killing people just because they're black, and also the recent shooting this week, which really hit home in a way, and I'll get to that. The shooting in Texas at the elementary school. Um, I work in two elementary schools currently um, as a school social worker and have a child who's in the fourth grade, and a lot of the victims of the school shooting were fourth grade, Latino, Latinx, Hispanic, um, your preference or what word to use, but you know, they they could have been like m- look like my kids, my people, and be senselessly murdered. Um, this homegrown terrorism that's plaguing this country with these mass shootings, with these rifles that no civilian should even own or be able to buy. Um, really says a lot about our priorities in this country. We care more about right to bear arms than women reproductive rights. We care more about trying to end or deal with racism in this country. Uh, white white nationalism is running amok in this country. Um, like what more does it need to take for us to do something to pass some legislation for some gun control? Um, the Second Amendment is not going away anytime soon. Um, it's crazy. I was telling my fiance today that when my ex-wife may God rest her soul, when she had gastric bypass surgery many moons ago, it's almost like another lifetime ago. She had to get a psychological evaluation to make sure that she was in her right minds to get the procedure, that she was competent, that she knew what she was doing, the risks it took for the procedure. And you got to get a psychological evaluation to get a procedure, but you can't get one. There's no mandate to get one to get an assault rifle. That's mind-boggling to me. That's it's really blows my mind that we need something in place. We need people need to be evaluated. Like, what do you need an assault rifle for? What do you need? A gun in the house. And I'm not talking to the people who got their guns legally and they are responsible gun owners and they only need it if they go hunting or to protect themselves in their home. Is something like someone try to break in their house or something like that. I'm not talking about those people. Like talking about people or these terrorists that they go and want to shoot somebody just based on color of their skin, um, shoot somebody for the hell of it. Um, this narrative about, oh, well, the person's mentally ill. Like, no, that you could just strictly be a racist asshole and just want to kill people just for the color of their skin. It's like mental health has nothing to do with that. On the mental health front, we're going to talk about mental health. Um, there needs to be more access to mental health services. The government needs to expand. The U.S. government needs to expand Medicaid coverage, so that not only outpatient mental health clinics could get reimbursed for services they're providing in the community. Also, Medicare needs to be expanded so that people are living longer. People age 55 and over can qualify for Medicare, and there's a lot of seniors who are experiencing loneliness thanks to the pandemic. By the way, that we are still living in, we are still in a pandemic. For people who are not aware, the World Health Organization has not declared COVID to be over. There's people who work in hospitals are preparing themselves for the next wave of COVID. So, for you anti-maskers out there, I have to admit I'm a little fatigued, getting fatigued with wearing the mask. But I work with kids, and kids are nasty, so I'm going to continue to wear my mask as long as it takes. But that being said, um, you know, and also every other health insurance company stop making it so hard for a licensed social worker, licensed clinician to bill for services, pay them what they worth if they provide a service. Stop having all this red tape and doing all this documentation to get reimbursed for services or requesting for more services. If a client needs to be seen every week, every 2 weeks, because they depressed or they got anxiety or they schizophrenic or whatever, and they need to take medication, like we are in a pandemic. People are not well mentally, and people need services. So you healthcare providers need to pay reimburse these therapists so that therapists don't necessarily get into the field and only do self-pay. There's plenty of people who lost their jobs or are struggling to make pay minimum wage, that they can't pay whatever the fees are, and having these therapists asking themselves, am I worth getting like $125 for a session, $125 an hour, or whatever, however they want to charge. Like they need to get paid their worth, and they need to reimburse for these services. So it starts with there. It needs to have access to these mental health services. Like what are we doing? Like it like the country is in all this debt, all this money. So it's instead of you know giving money away to these countries, we need to help ourselves. Like we got a lot of things going on in this country. Like all this extra money that's been given to these countries, our student loan debt could have been forgiven. Like a lot of people are worried about student loans that they're going to have to pay back whenever it's time to pay back, whether it be in September or when they're going to push it back. I see the game y'all Democrats are playing. You're probably going to push it back again going into 2023, just because this midterm election is coming. So y'all can play that game all you want. So I'm more than grateful not to pay back these loans. You keep pushing it back, but you're better off just forgiving these loans, and I could use this money to get the Google and Amazon stock when the stock splits, and put that money from student loans and put it right into those stocks. So I could use put more and pay down my mortgage, or I could put it into my kids' college fund, and I'm not the only one that we got millions and millions of Americans that are thinking like this, or should be thinking like this. So we got a lot of stuff going on. It starts with that. People are really struggling. These schools need more counselors. We need more social workers. Need behavioral interventionalists that can really help these kids. You need to build more schools because all this overcrowding going on. We can't have one social worker dealing with 200, 300, 400 kids. Like they're these kids are suffering. They're suffering younger. Um, if you listen to my podcast, I've been very frank and honest about kindergartners, flipping chairs, flipping tables, really struggling with their emotions. A lot of these daycares weren't open during the pandemic, so these kids are missing all these critical social skills. We got a whole new generation of latchkey kids going on. Being home, expecting them to be on the Zoom and during class time while parents got to work and got to leave these their kids home. So or we got the generation of like, oh, my kid is crying, let me give you an iPad so you calm down. And you can't have an iPad when you're in the classroom, so of course the kid's going to act up. So all these different things, and it's starting younger and younger and younger. Like, I just had a teacher that I follow had an Instagram post about kids being more talking more and more sexually explicit, getting younger. Like, and I've heard those conversations, so as young as fourth graders, like 8, 9, 10 years old, talking about, oh, that's my boyfriend, that's my girlfriend, using sexually explicit language, and then they barely know what they're talking about, but they hear it from their parents or hear it from whoever they're listening to, and they're going to repeat it. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on, and on top of the systemic racism that's really been eye opening. Even more, the pandemic's really opened a lot of eyes to that, and the government's not talking about that. I find it funny that the Secretary of Education is spending a lot of time on Twitter talking just things that the government is trying to do. Like, where were you for the first year of office when you're appointed? I find it funny that is getting ready. The primary season is just passed here in the U.S. for Senate seats and government and governors, and now you want to start talking like that's a little suspicious. Back to the guns. I don't own one. I don't plan on owning one. I was 10 years old. My dad had a gun in the house, and I had a friend over. Somehow the friend found that gun and pointed it at me and scared the shit out of me. So, luckily, nothing happened. I was lucky. So from that point on, not owning one, I have never touched one. Um, Despite living in the hood, luckily for me, I've never put myself in situations to see a gun or anything like that. So um, that that being said, like, we can't have no little kids being victims of gun violence. So in the U.S., the number one cause of death in the U.S. is gun violence, and I watch on the news, like in New York, in Philly, it's like every day. Chicago, it's like every day is some sort of violence, and these politicians, these police commissioners, is lost in the sauce. Don't know what to do, like how to get these guns out of the streets of people. You know, maybe there's some implicit bias of me, but living in the Bronx, I didn't even with my kids in school, like there'll be shootouts and gun violence around the school, but not inside the school. Maybe the playground of the school, but never inside of the school during school hours. Other than an isolated incident a few years ago, and we never hear about that stuff. It's always like in the suburban areas or the rural areas that this stuff happens. So when I moved to Delaware, and again, this is probably some implicit bias of mine, but one of my main fears was, these rural kids, suburban kids, there is not much to do. Where I live at is not really a lot to do. So, it's a possibility of you in the house, don't you're a loner to do things. Your mind starts racing. You see all these thoughts and all these different websites and stuff, and your mind gets fixated on something, and stuff might happen. So, um, even during the school year, one time during recess at one of my schools, there was just a random guy pulled up to the very beginning of the campus of the school. And I don't know if he robbed the store or robbed the car or whatever, but he literally parked right in front of the campus of the school during dismissal, and like four cop cars was chasing him, and he ran out the car, got up to the floor, and the cops literally had guns drawn on top of the guy during dismissal. I think it was like November, December, this past November, December. This isolated incident happened. So I was like, and my coworkers was like, just didn't even react. It was like, I think we need to be inside, and whatever happens, and just us be safe in the building. But no, everybody just took it like whatever. So it's things like that. We need to do a better job in this country of just where we at in terms of guns. Most of us agree nobody should have an assault a weapon of any kind, unless you're like in the army or army reserves or any sort of military. You should not have those type of weapons in your possession to buy them. Um, Stores like Walmart or independent gun stores here shouldn't. You have there needs to be a background check. You got to do at least a background check. You need hire mental health workers, and we could have a whole separate uh, sub genre or subtext related to mental health, and have psychologists or psychiatrists who like do mental health evaluations for potential gun owners. Let's do like there's a whole like a whole thing that could be done about that. But there has to be some sort of evaluations to take place. An 18-year-old should not be legally able to buy a gun. To me, you got to be at least 21. The age might have to go up, maybe 25. And even still, like um, we have a lot of homegrown terrorism going on in these countries. We got a lot of terrorists in government here in the U.S. A lot of senators or other politicians. Y'all were there January 6th, and you want to be in cahoots to overthrow the government. And we have Agent Orange. I'm not going to say his name, but the former president lurking, still vying to be president in 2024. I don't know what's taking so long for him to be arrested, because there's plenty of evidence that he orchestrated January 6th. I don't know what happened to all those the women that accused him of sexual harassment, sexual assault, whatever. Like, I don't know what happened to those cases, but they need to get cracking. There's enough to indict him on stuff for multiple different things. So, um, and he somehow runs. I've mentioned on this podcast before, he's going to win. The only thing that's going to save Biden is the student loan forgiveness, and it can't be just $10,000. It needs to be at least 50, or cancel all of it. Right, the money is there. Yeah, we could print print some more money and just um, give it to the people, like I did with the stimulus checks. Just give it to the people and let them pay their loans off. Or you already have our information. You already have my social security number and know where I live at. Um, just you have my information. Just pay pay my loan off. Like it's forgiven, done. Um, so I don't just this country's always been like something has to happen and then we'll do something. This country for many years has not taken a proactive front on much of anything. Something has to happen and then we do something. Um, and unfortunately, this issue with the guns and having kids and teachers being victims of gun violence inside of school where it should be safe. Um, after the Sandy Hook in Connecticut, you would think something would have been done, but a lot of people, including myself, have lost hope. If no gun legislation happened after the Sandy Hook is not happening. I mean, maybe something might happen after these last two incidents, and there was also an incident in California in a church too. So people who are sick and tired of saying thoughts and prayers to victims. People want to see action. People want to see some uh, gun legislation. People don't want to see stuff happen. And um, so, the people out there, watch these politicians and do research when their time is up. That way, when you go to the polls, you're not voting on just name recognition alone to see what in the past who they voted, what bills they pass, and the senator that serves the district that happened in Texas voted against uh, uh, gun legislation. So he got blood on his hands now. Ted Cruz, the senator in Texas, he's been having blood on his hands for a long time. He's just a straight up piece of trash. So I even saw a video where he was being bombarded with questions, and he was just like, as usual, not answering the questions that's being asked of him. So I'm tired. I think we all are tired. It's great. Um, it, it was hard going into school working the day after the shooting, and definitely had like was like looking around and being in my office space and even look like where I could hide in case something does pop off. And I've never had to do that in any point in my career in social work, and to do that or life, like well, kind of in life a little bit. You always have to be on pins and cues where I'm from. But to do that at work and having supervision and that doesn't come up at all. It's just about the work. It was like June 14th, the last day of school with these kids. I'm looking forward to that day. June 17th, my last day. I cannot wait. And like done. Like I'm working on fumes. Working these last couple of weeks has been one heck of a school year. It's been an interesting ride. It's almost over. Um, Another fight must go on. I pledge for all social workers in the U.S. to advocate for strong gun legislation in this country, in the United States of America. Um, Something needs to be done. Um, I urge the NASW to put out more statements. I've been urging them, like, yeah, we need to see we need to see Ms. Joyner in a press conference somewhere, do it in the office. I know they got their day conference. The National Association of Social Workers got their um, big conference coming up in DC, coming up in June. I hope it gets the attention it deserves, and they say something, do something, and cameras be on them. Like we need to see, just like I'm doing this video and posting it on YouTube. I need to see something from them, because it don't come from the top. Then I mean, there's us in the grassroots area willing to do the work if they're not doing it, and we will apply the pressure to make sure that uh, something something comes up from this. You know, it's just a lot, and we're tired. We still in a pandemic from COVID. We still in a pandemic of opioid and just addiction. With this fentanyl stuff is just insane right now. We in just a pandemic of white nationalism, terrorists that want to use their racist thoughts and their actions and kill people just for the color of their skin. Again, we tired. Um, it's Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to all the men and women who sacrifice their lives for to protect our freedoms and our rights. Um, you know, the Memorial Day weekend is about them not just going on the beach or having a barbecue or it's time to travel. Even though the unofficial start of summer is not about that. And I'm gonna use my implicit bias of saying that I can't stand the summer. So, um, you know, the fall can't come here soon enough. So it's not about that. It's about the people who lost their lives in combat, in battle. Through all our armed forces and Navy SEALs and our Navy and Air Force. You just throughout all these years and these generations that been fighting for this country. So on that note, um, no, that's it for this week. I need y'all to hold me accountable. June 14th, and now 14th to 21st, Triumph Through Pain, How to Maximize Your Full Potential During Downtimes, my poetry book. I got a date. I'm working on it. Going to work on it this weekend. I got touching up final wedding plans this weekend too. So I got a lot of countdowns going on. End of school countdown, book release, and myself on a personal note getting married. So a lot of good stuff to look forward to. Um, stay safe, everybody. Hug your loved ones extra tight. Uh, you know, also, now would be a good time to start investing in the stock market. Definitely do some research and time to get into this market. It's social work. It's not the end all be all to try to make some money and have some generational wealth. We need to step up to the plate and start learning about these stocks and, there's some big ones on the horizon that you can get pretty cheap. So that being said, until next time, stay safe, y'all. Peace.